Welcome to the show. We are right in the thick of NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball, soccer, you name it. It's a good time of year. It's nice outside, at least here in Ohio for once. So we're soaking that in. Hope you listeners, I hope you guys are doing well. Josh, what's up with you, man? How's Dallas, Texas a day after an 8-point second quarter by the Mavs?
Oh, it is always a scary thing when you can score 37 points in the third quarter and then still be down by 25
Mm-hmm.
going into the fourth.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not a
tough.
fun time. I'm Why is Harden finally good in the playoffs? I'm frustrated.
yeah. Yeah, he played
I
well.
don't I cannot believe it. He did defense, he did great off. I'm How dare you? We'll talk about that in a second. Um Fun update. My call to action worked.
Oh.
I have information on Webster University,
Ooh.
the so-called
Yeah, so called.
university.
Yeah. It's fake, but that's fine.
My father contacted me and said not only is it a real place, I can verify it because at his church there's a congregant whose daughter is All-American in track there. And you know what I said?
Wow.
That's incredibly convenient. Who paid you?
Yeah.
The
I'm
same
I'm all
person
American
who's
track there
paying to
too.
keep exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Gorloks just love handing out those All-Americans.
Yeah. That's
It's like that online clergy degree.
yeah, right. As much fun as we made it for being fake, the nickname is so good that I honestly have to respect it. And I will
Oh,
say,
absolutely. Everybody's a bear or a cougar or a wildcat.
right.
Like, making up your own mythical creature, like, good job, guys.
Yeah. That's well done. So because of that, I'll let them pass. I'll admit that
Mhm.
they might be real.
They might still on thin
Maybe.
ice.
Maybe, yeah. But because Gorlock, that's incredible. That's great. Well, thank you for that update, Josh. That's breaking
Absolutely.
news. That's podcast breaking news. Johnny, what's up? How's your week going?
Pickleball, soccer, went to the crew game on Saturday.
Nice.
That was always entertaining. Some wild calls in that one. More on that later with what I'm following.
Oh boy.
No, but good.
Nice. Yeah, you were they playing Portland? Is that who they were playing on Saturday?
Yeah.
All right, nice. Nice. I'm going to a crew game in a few weeks, but I'm actually going to see them in Chicago. So that'll be fun. Now, I've never been to a road soccer game, so maybe this is where you can help me out. I was planning on wearing crew stuff, but will I be murdered in Chicago if I do that?
Not in Chicago.
Okay.
Maybe if you went to the wrong place, but
Yeah.
you'll be fine with the Fire fans.
All right, cool. I mean, I wouldn't murder a Chicago fan if I saw them in Columbus, so I would hope they would return the non-murdering favor to me. So that'll be fun. That's happening in a few weeks. Looking forward to that. My week's been good. Honestly, it has just pretty much been full of watching the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. So that's been a lot of fun this week, and that's pretty much what next week looks like too. Other than Johnny's aforementioned pickleball, trying to get out and play as much as I can. At some point, we probably need to adopt a podcast Major League Pickleball team. So that's coming soon.
Mhm.
Just brace yourselves for that pickleball talk on the podcast. That's what you want. Well, in addition to the NHL and NBA playoffs, there is a kind of big event happening on Thursday, and that is the NFL draft. It's happening from Detroit, Michigan. From what I've heard, there's already 100,000 people that have basically signed up for, I believe, Thursday night. So it's going to be packed per usual. As much fun as Music City was for the draft annually, I think the NFL's decision to kind of move this event around a bunch is really worked really well. You get a bunch of different fan interests, and I think it's great. And also, these venues can just hold more people. So I think that's been really successful. I'm imagining Detroit is going to be absolutely nuts, especially coming off the heels of what they did last year, especially coming off the heels of a pretty nice uniform reveal we had on Thursday. I think the Lions may have, I'm very biased, obviously, but maybe one of the sharpest dressed teams this year. So we'll talk more about that on Thursday. If you are interested in the NFL draft, we encourage you to hang out right here at Fifth and Goal. We're going to be streaming the first round, and by that I mean you can see Johnny and I's faces for the first round. We'll be walking you through the first round. We'll be talking about the picks as they happen. We'll have guests for various teams. Josh may very well make an appearance when his Pittsburgh Steelers draft a running back instead of the offensive line that they probably should. So that's exciting. So you can see reactions to things from
Come on, Aaron. You know it won't be an offensive player.
No,
It's going to be another linebacker.
You're right. Yeah, the heir apparent to TJ Watt will be drafted on Thursday. So that'll be a lot of fun. So we encourage you to check it out. It's just on YouTube. We're doing giveaways with some merch. We've got who knows what else we'll get into. But you're welcome to like have the draft up on like the television broadcast on one screen and pull us up on the other. I think we said it last year. I'll say it again. One of the biggest compliments we have received the last couple years in doing this is that people have told us they have muted the like ESPN broadcast or whatever and listened to us instead. And I don't say that to like throw shade at ESPN. I just say that's a really big compliment towards us. So thank you so much. I'm glad you feel that way. Others of you may want to mute us entirely and just watch the NFL. Hey, I get it. But it's here for you. It'll be super fun. We'll be walking you through the whole first round. It's always a good time. It's one of my favorite events of the year. So let's talk a little bit about it. I guess I was joking about kind of the Steelers drafting a defensive player, but Josh, you have your quarterback, we think. And offensive line.
Draft a fourth quarterback for all I know.
Yeah, maybe. I'm assuming that's what you want to see the Steelers do is offensive line as early as often as possible here.
Yes. Center, right tackle, please. I beg you.
Yeah. When are they drafting?
Josh, would you like some names?
Oh yeah, I'll give you.
names.
I have here are the draft picks that the Steelers have. They have the 20th overall, first rounds. They have the 19th pick in the second rounds. They have and then after that, doesn't matter. They have a second round, 2 third rounds, a fourth round, 2 sixth rounds. So, not bad.
Yeah.
That'll work. Be just fine. And they're going to grab a bunch of running backs. There has been talk of reserve lineman Nate Herbig being center capable, whatever that means.
Love that.
Please.
Capable. That's, yeah.
For the love of the memory of Heinz Field and what it once was, please do not. Otherwise, I will do what Bane did in The Dark Knight Rises to that stadium. Theoretically, there are 3 potential centers that could be fun to draft. You have Oregon's Jackson Powers Johnson, Graham Barton out of Duke, Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. Those are all potential first rounders if the Steelers want to be aggressive. And what I've appreciated about the offseason moves is that Omar Khan has been very smart with how he's been doing things. Now, that being said, if they're not going to go center or offensive line, offensive tackle first rounds, which they should, there is no other option. But if they're going to be dumb, my other option is maybe a wide receiver. Now that Johnson's gone to the Carolina Panthers,
Sure.
We have Pickens and like, I don't know, Van Jefferson, Cordell Patterson. Like, it's a question mark.
Yeah.
And I think a viable number 2 is needed. I'm trying to think who is coming up in the draft. I can't remember who would be wide receiver fun, but I think wide receiver is the second priority. I'm not terrible. I'm okay with running backs. Please, I am okay with running backs. We're okay. We have TJ Watt.
Yeah.
We're fine. Please, for the love of Art Modell, draft a center. Make sure
Josh,
Russell doesn't hurt any more bones in his body. Let's smelt.
Yep.
There's no reason for for a defensive player.
No.
Like there's just absolutely no excuse for that in the first round. I will say, I agree with you. Wide receiver is a need. The problem with where the Steelers are drafting in the first round is though that it's really like the top 3 guys. And then, in my opinion, at least, it seems like a lot of people think too. There's a pretty wide gulf. Some people have Brian Thomas up there. So that's the only guy that it wouldn't be like, what? Why did you take him? he's kind of the only wide receiver you could take. But
Mhm.
you mentioned like there's actually like really good depth at tackle too.
Mhm.
So even though I think I have Pittsburgh potentially taking like the 5th offensive tackle off the board,
Right.
I still think he's like for me that's Troy Fontenot from
Mhm.
Washington, who was awesome.
He's really
so
good.
like
Yeah.
right. Or what you said, Jackson Powers Johnson. I have him going a few picks later to the Cowboys right now. We'll see if that changes. But like that would be a fine pick as well.
Exactly.
And more than likely, both of them are available for them at that point. Or if Fontenot is taken earlier, that means one of the other tackles slid down. So who
Exactly.
knows how teams rank those guys? Like my point is,
They're
there
in a
is no
comfortable
way
position. Yeah.
there won't be an offensive lineman of the value of that
Of
pick.
the caliber they want.
Yes,
Exactly.
they won't be reaching. So it's
Right.
like it's a need and you're not reaching. So
Which is why they're gonna-
naturally, let's get another
Linebacker.
linebacker. Even
Which is
though
why they're
we
gonna
just
trade
signed
up-
Patrick
yeah.
Queen from the Ravens and
They're
spent
gonna
all that
trade up for
money.
JJ McCarthy.
Hey, someone's going to. We'll talk about that here in a
Someone's
second.
going to.
Staying in the
No.
AFC North, Johnny, what do you think? Around the same pick, Steelers picking at 20, the Bengals picking at 18. What would you like to see your team do with the 18th pick, or what do you have them doing?
My dream scenario would be somehow everybody forgets Brock Bowers exists and he slides down to 18.
Good
and
luck
the
with
Bengals
that.
can have him. I mean, I'll be honest. Honestly, when I was doing my mock draft, I got to like 8, and I'm like, where does Brock Bowers go? And part of that is Aaron just mentioned like,
Atlanta, 8.
well, we're also with Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
If Arthur Smith was still there, probably.
Yeah.
And they would only go like hippo formation,
Mhm.
no tight end passes.
Any way to not hand the ball off to Bijan is ideal.
Yeah. They'll
Mm-hmm.
hand it off to the 3rd string running back, but it will only be run plays. No throws to the tight ends.
Right.
Anyway, it's interesting though, because I know people have started on their mock drafts they've started in recent years to like predict trades. And I get it, because partially, especially this year, once you get past pick 4, you're kind of like, I don't really know. There's a million ways to go with that. So Brock doesn't fit, like, because it's not that teams don't want him, but you have so many vast needs, and a tight end feels like icing on a cake. And that's not totally fair to Brock Bowers, because he's amazing, incredible player. But if you're going to make a Super Bowl run, which piece is usually more critical? A strong left tackle or a star tight end? I know the Kansas City Chiefs have that argument with Travis Kelce, but the offensive line's been strong that whole time too. And the one time they fell apart was the O-line was bad. Anyway, what I want the Bengals to do. A lot of people are talking about like, well, they got to get the replacement for T. Higgins. T is going to play on the Bengals this year. Do not expect the Bengals to draft a wide receiver. That will be next year's problem for the Bengals. And they've also they drafted a receiver out of Princeton to replace Tyler Boyd. Like they've kept like a lot of those other wide receiver depth pieces. They're not drafting a wide receiver early. Sorry, Bengals fans. Sorry, people, if you think that's happening. It's not. They'd take Bowers if he somehow got down there. It won't happen. They're more likely to go at a defensive tackle. They're going at the O-line. They're going to double up on the O-line again and just do whatever they can to protect Joe Burrow. So, I mean, I'm never going to be angry with the Bengals for taking an offensive lineman. Fontenot I'd be rather pleased with that. Jackson Powers Johnson's an interesting guy just because a lot of people have him marked as a center, but he could play guard. Some people even say he could play. He played a wide variety of spots at Oregon. So that's very valuable for a lot of teams too, of like, hey, like that, because injuries happen at the O-line for every team every year. So having a guy who is a utility piece and can play several different positions is very valuable. I'd be shocked if they drafted secondary. That's like all the Bengals have drafted early in the last 2 years. So my opinion is it's probably going to be offensive line. I would not be surprised if they went defensive tackle though, or even defensive end. they still need a little more production from their defensive ends. So I wouldn't be surprised even if they reached for like someone like Chop Robinson from Penn State. And I would not be upset about that at all. Just I know you have Sam Hubbard but like those guys are getting old towards the end of their contracts. So it's actually the right time to get someone. And I think like Chop Robinson would be there for the Bengals there. Tyler Guyton, if those other tackles that I've mentioned already previously are gone, he would be a guy also to look for the Bengals to go at tackle, maybe to replace Jonah Williams.
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, a lot of the things that you're saying, I think kind of apply to my team too. The Lions are picking 29th, and that's hard to comprehend. It's not because they traded there. That's just actually where they finished the NFL season. Kind of the same thing. I'm really looking for 3 specific things, and I think I'll prioritize them in this order. Secondary of really any kind is the biggest need. The Lions were improved defensively in 2023. Well, yeah, in 2023 compared to 2022, but they were still pretty average. And there were still some weaknesses to the point where they just decided, hey, we're going to get really good at stopping the run. And if teams beat us with the pass, they beat us with the pass. And teams did beat them with the pass. Not crippling, but still needs some work there. So secondary, in my mind, is the biggest need. Offensive line, that's, as you said, Johnny, that's literally always a need. It's coming... The time is quickly approaching in which Jared Goff is going to command more of a salary cap hit in all likelihood. And the Lions right now are paying a pretty penny for some of their offensive linemen. They've got one of the best in the NFL, but it's never too late to bolster. There were some injuries this year. The depth was decent enough that it didn't really hurt too much. But with all the skill players they have, they've got a ton of young skill players. You can't really ever have too many of those, but really it's secondary, offensive line, and then they really need a good pass rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, because he was getting double teamed and still was very, very good. But they could really afford to have some additional pressure on the quarterback if at all possible. I don't know what that looks like at 29, to be honest with you. I don't know if they'll try to move up. I mean, there's still, in theory, some time in free agency where they could maybe sign some people, maybe do some trades, but unlike past years where they have been able to stockpile draft picks, mostly because of the Matt Stafford trade, they pick at 29, and then right now they don't pick again until 61 with the fourth to last pick of the second round. They've got a little bit more in the third round, but that's about it. So, different year for the Lions as far as the draft. They've hit it out of the park. Last year was a home run with who they got. And that's the funny thing about doing the draft show that we do. We were sitting there kind of shaking our head like, why Jahmyr Gibbs there? It wasn't like because it was Gibbs, it was where they picked him. Why this player there? And well, they made us look bad. So, which I'm happy to report. Happy to report. Yeah. So let you want Brad Holmes.
Aaron, you want a few corners that might be
that'd be great.
Ballpark.
Yeah.
So I have him going a little earlier, but he could be available. So you got Rakestraw from Missouri. These are all corners. You have Cooper DeJean if you would like another Hawkeye.
Hey.
I know he's coming off the injury, but that's a multifaceted ball hawking corner. I actually, personally, that would be my pick incredible. If I were the Lions. Or Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yep.
Those are probably the type of corners you're looking at that point if you're the Lions. All great options. Probably more than likely going to be the pick as well.
Yeah, I'd be really happy with any of those. Cooper DeJean would be, I mean, it's partly the Iowa thing, because you saw what Jack Campbell did, you saw what Sam Laporta did, but just feels like a Dan Campbell guy, And honestly, that's the way it felt with even like Brian Branch from Alabama last year. And I'm not saying like Kool-Aid McKinstry isn't, but that would be, that'd be pretty interesting. All right, well, more draft talk. Again, all Thursday long during the first round. We encourage you to check it out. But before we leave the topic, we do need to address, I guess, the elephant in the room at this point, and it is the quarterback situation. So it seems like it's going to be Caleb Williams, number one. That's been a done deal for a while. And then it seems like it's going to be, for the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels from LSU. Then the Patriots are probably going to draft Drake May. That's kind of the general consensus on the top 3. Then you've got J.J. McCarthy, national champion, hanging around with some quarterback desperate teams hanging out in the teens, meaning that's their draft pick. Minnesota, I'm looking at you. Denver, I'm looking at you, even though today they traded for Zach Wilson. There's some other teams there. Will someone be desperate enough to trade up? Well, I think the answer is yes. I think I'm asking a rhetorical question here. But Johnny, what team do you think is most likely to pull the trigger on, for better or worse, a blockbuster trade in which they are mortgaging the farm to draft J.J. McCarthy in the top 10?
It's funny because they're all sitting right next to each other in the draft order.
Yep.
11, 12, and 13, Minnesota, Denver, and Las Vegas. But you mentioned, like, Denver at this point, they don't have the draft capital to do it.
I think 6 picks total this draft.
I also actually don't think J.J. McCarthy is the proper quarterback for Sean Payton. So that's also, like, I think people like, you need a quarterback. Therefore, the highest quarterback left on the board at your position is this guy. So you take him. That's not how teams look at it, nor should it be. Do they fit my system? That goes for all positions too, not just quarterback. But is that the style of wide? Do I need a slot receiver? Oh, no. Well, then I'm gonna take a wide receiver that's ranked 3 spots lower than whoever we have as our top guy, because I don't need a slot. Anyway, Vegas, I have no idea, honestly. I don't think anyone knows what Vegas is doing, like what the game plan is, what we're doing. Like, honestly, guys, I'm going into the season assuming Gardner Minshew is the starter for that team. So I feel like it has to be Minnesota if it's anyone. It has to be. And they might go into the season. I have a hard time believing that they're going to go into the season saying Sam Darnold's our starter with no competition. Like, he might end up being the starter, but no competition. I can't see it. I can't see it. Here's my thing. And here's the funny thing for me. Everyone's like, they have to trade up to go get him. And it's probably going to be, Jim Harbaugh at 5 doing his guy a solid. And they're doing it because it's a good talk show topic. And who's taking him in between them right now?
Fair.
Everybody's talking like, oh man, Minnesota better go get him. I mean, the Giants are the only team that I can see thinking about taking him.
You don't think Tennessee?
Tennessee has so many needs. That offensive line is so
That's
bad.
fair.
Like, I actually think that would be detrimental to their rebuild to do that. Atlanta obviously is out on that. Chicago will already have their quarterback. The Jets, they're all in on Rodgers. Like, I understand you're fearful because Vegas could hypothetically hop you. Like, there's other teams that definitely could. And if he is your guy, definitely go get him. Like, but that's the interesting piece. A lot of times, especially I think in the last decade, we're like, man, there's going to be like 7 quarterbacks going in the first round in all these mocks. And it's like, and this is an excellent class, so don't get me wrong, but like, it's always less than we think. And there's always a few quarterbacks that slide down further than you expected. And so, like, honestly, I'm not even fully convinced that the Patriots are taking a quarterback at 3.
Okay.
I think if they had their way, they'd trade down. Partially because, again, another team, you're picking 3rd overall for a reason. Tons of needs. Not a good position for a new quarterback to come into. Chicago is actually a great spot for a rookie to come into. Washington's not even a horrible spot now that they have new owners. Like, you have weapons, you have some playmakers. Like, that's not remote. Like, Carolina last year, dumpster fire. There's nothing around Bryce Young. He might not be good, but no help. Like, those 2 squads have good help. New England doesn't. So anyway, I'm getting off track. It's kind of Minnesota or bust to me for trading up. I would be surprised if it's anyone else. Vegas has been burned too many times almost. And like, Gardner Minshew is an okay stopgap. Like, if you don't want to mortgage your future in trading up to a quarterback, unless you're in love with JJ McCarthy. I also think like those guys are interesting too. We're only talking about JJ, and sorry, I'm dominating the segment. You guys can obviously give your opinions here. I think it's interesting at 12 and 13, like Bo Nix and Michael Penix are there as well.
Yep.
They're in play. Now, I think that's a little high again to pick those guys. Not that I don't believe in them, I do. Um, it's just that interesting of that's our guy, but do we have to take him right now? If he's your guy, you should probably just go ahead and take him. But it's interesting because Denver's probably almost like, we probably could get Bo Nix in the second round. It's interesting. And Bo's a perfect fit to me for Sean Payton. So I'm really fascinated in those two guys as well. Like the second three are a far more interesting story than the top three quarterbacks. Also because I actually don't think there's this giant chasm between them that people have kind of said there is as well.
Yeah.
And I think part of that will come true because they're going to go to better teams. So that second tier is all going to go to better teams. And at least early on, I wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy, Penix, and Nix all look like they might be the better quarterbacks.
Yeah. And we didn't mention this, and we need to move on, but the wide receiver thing is interesting because you've obviously got Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of people think everything we've seen to this point has shown that he is probably a generational talent. And then Malik Neighbors is not far behind. If you're Chicago, you're grabbing Caleb Williams, and then you are praying that teams are so desperate for a quarterback that they are stumbling over one another. So then at 9, Malik Neighbors falls into your lap. I think that's what the Bears are praying for. And I actually think there's a world in which that happens. Not a likely one, probably. But if people really start panicking, if Vegas makes a move and pulls in the top 10, and then, I don't know, Minnesota's sitting
Romo
there.
Dunze wouldn't be a bad consolation.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So the Bears are set up well. I think they could really have a good year. So that'll be interesting to see. We know Caleb Williams. That's going to happen. Carolina, goodness, draft some help for Bryce Young, because if it does not work out, then you have
first round picks though.
I know. If it does not work out, Carolina has sunk themselves into a not very fun place. All right, let's make some picks.
Woohoo!
All right, last week we were lame and picked the same thing, but we were correct. The Lakers did, in fact, beat the New Orleans Pelicans. So can you blame us? I guess it did not help. Really, it's not lame if you're Johnny, because Johnny is still 3 points up with just a handful of episodes left in season 1, with the footlong cookie almost in his grasp for winning. So the scoreboard reads Johnny with 12 points. I've got 9 points. Josh has 8 points. And sad for us, we are doing a long-term pick that will not help us in season 1. Maybe it'll help us jumpstart season 2. It is because we are picking the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. They are off to a fast start. I love NHL playoff hockey. It is the best. If you love it just as much as I do, or maybe you're just trying to get into it for the first time, or you are someone that only watches the playoffs, we've got a great resource for you on our website, fifthandgoalsports.com. Our friend Noah Cutting wrote a really, really good article that kind of breaks down all 16 playoff teams. It talks about key players. It talks about kind of his projections of how far a team can make it, how far, if the matchup that they're in is good or not. It's a really good article. So that's over at fifthandgoalsports.com/the Stanley Cup. So we are picking the Stanley Cup. We're going to pick a Eastern Conference team, a Western Conference team, and then our ultimate winner. So I'm going to go with, after much deliberation, I'm going to go with the Carolina Hurricanes over the Edmonton Oilers. Now, a Canadian team has not won the Stanley Cup since, I believe, 1993. And Edmonton's going to get darn close. They're going to flirt with it. But I really like this Carolina team. Now, the New York Rangers were the top team in the regular season, but for whatever reason, the team that wins the President's Cup, which is the team with the most regular season points in the NHL, has really had a hard time winning in the postseason. We saw that with Boston last year. Boston, I think, broke the record for most points in the regular season, and then they ended up losing in 7 games to Florida. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to the Rangers, because they are facing a Washington Capitals team that has the worst goal differential of a playoff team since, I believe, a team from 1998. So I don't foresee the Rangers having issues with the Capitals. That being said, the Hurricanes were only a handful of points behind the Rangers. And they've got some things that I look for in a Stanley Cup champion. They've got good goaltending. They're Frederick Anderson's their starter. He's been really good. They've got a great backup. They've got good goal scorers. They added a couple of Stanley Cup champions, so they have that kind of pedigree. So I really like this Carolina team. I've got them going all the way, winning the whole thing. Edmonton's a really good team. They've obviously got some guy named Connor McDavid. He's decent at hockey. Leon Draisaitl has been fantastic as well. Actually, statistically, he's almost been better with 41 goals, 65 assists. So, literally, those two players alone can make things happen in the West. The other team I was considering is the Dallas Stars, which Josh will talk about here in a minute. I'm guessing, and the Dallas Stars there's a path in which, well, they're playing Vegas right now. That game is tonight. The defending Stanley Cup champions. There's a world in which then they play the Colorado Avalanche, the Stanley Cup champions from 2 years ago, and then another decent team from the West. So it's not that I don't believe in the Stars. It's just the path to get there might be a little challenging. But I'm going to pick Carolina. I'm going to say they beat Edmonton in 6.
Yeah, I have the Stars coming in from the West. Really, I could tell you about their stats. I could tell you about Jason Robertson. I could talk to you about Pavlitsky, all this stuff. I can see American Airlines from my apartment.
That's a good reason, isn't it?
I went last Wednesday. I went to the tailgating for their final home game against the Blues. I'm just going on vibes.
I love it.
You know me. Now, I unfortunately do have them losing. I haven't updated this in our shared folder, but I do have them losing overall. Right now, the Maple Leafs are playing the Bruins, and I have a really bold prediction. They're currently tied, and I realize this is going to age actually so well. You're going to be scared at how good my prophecy is going to be, you listeners. 7:31 left in the first period. What's going to happen is the Bruins are going to put another 3 up on the Maple Leafs. It's going to look real bad for them. The start of the third period happens. The lights completely go out.
Wow.
Like that's one Super Bowl, completely go out. Everyone, no one knows what's going on. This is in Boston too. This is scary. Lights come back on. Maple Leafs are no longer there. The team is gone. You know who is there? The Atlanta Thrashers. Patrick Stefan comes back, unretires. Not the Winnipeg Jets, not the Jets. The Atlanta Thrashers.
Oh, yeah.
They score 8 in a quarter, and they go all the way through, sweep the Stars in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Or my boring answer
prediction. I want him to be right.
4 Stars over Panthers. That's boring.
Yeah, Atlanta Thrashers. You heard it here first.
My pick is completely random, and I will say also Josh. Well, what seed are the Panthers, Josh? They're
2.
I think second in the East. Yeah, one in their division.
All right.
Yeah.
We are all wrong because this is the NHL playoffs, and someone who's the last seed in one of the conferences will make a run to the Stanley Cup playoffs because that's always what happens.
Oh, Maple Leafs after all.
None of us really had the guts to do it because it's impossible to guess. But there's a reason why it's one of the most random and fun postseasons. Yet we all picked upper seeds clearly, but is what it is. I'm guilty too, because I also have Edmonton in the final for me, but I have Canada finally breaking the drought.
Wow.
Partially because I think it'd be funny if it's not the Maple Leafs and it's somebody else. So I'm going to have Edmonton winning, and I'll have them beating Boston. That team from last year, Boston getting a little bit of a resurgence there and getting to the final after that disappointment in the first round of the playoffs last year, but they come up short against Edmonton. So I have the Oilers winning it all.
I like it. By the way, in that article, not to spoil it, you should read it. Noah describes the Toronto Maple Leafs as the Dallas Cowboys, and that is the best, most accurate analogy in the world.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic job, Noah.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah,
Toronto's just not as flashy as Dallas, but it's true.
Yeah, not
in
quite.
hockey terms.
In hockey terms, they are. I mean, Josh, you talked about game 2's happening right now as we're live. Game 1 happened. I think Boston beat them either 4-1 or 5-1. And so Toronto fans are nuts. They're really good. They have Jurassic Park for the Raptors, where it's just a bunch of dudes outside hanging out. They have the same thing for the Maple Leafs. But they were down rather quickly in that game. So every once in a while, the ESPN would just kind of, or TNT, whoever was broadcasting it, would every once in a while just show the crowd, and they were just kind of standing there, sad. So unfortunately, that seems to be the way this series is going to go. It's very early. Austin Matthews did score 69 goals in the regular season, which is absurd. Also, since we're talking hockey, there were 2 players that had 100 or more assists in a season that had only been done 3 times previously, and now there was 2 this year. So that's pretty wild. I know Nikita Kucherov was one, and I'm blanking on who the other one was, but anyways, that was pretty crazy. Maybe it was Connor McDavid. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. Yeah, it may have been him. I don't know. Anyways, that's our picks. So just to recap, I've got Carolina over Edmonton. Josh has the Atlanta Thrashers. Johnny has Edmonton over Boston. Or alternatively, Josh has the Dallas Stars over the Florida Panthers. But I heard Atlanta Thrashers, and I liked it. So
The heart wants what it wants. The first Canadian victory will come through the Winnipeg Jets, who kind of art model themselves back to the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah.
Trashers. I'm so good at words. I'm on a podcast because I'm good at saying things.
All right, since what we're following is Josh, you've got a hockey thing. Do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
Guys, welcome to What We're Following. Just like the guy said, I have a real sports thing I'm following this week.
Wow.
And this is a development from what I was following last week, I think, which is, first off, again, straight to jail every person involved with the seemingly last minute decision to remove the Coyotes and throw them over in Utah. I understand that it's probably a better market, but I saw all of the TikTok posts and tweets, and I got real sad over a team I've never actually seen play.
Yeah.
But
can I specifically throw someone in jail, Josh? Now that you brought that up,
Yeah,
I'm going to throw the Arizona Diamondbacks in jail because they come out with this big bold statement like, "Oh, we can't believe this happened. This is and it is. Hey, Arizona, guess who unanimously approved the Oakland Athletics to move? You guys. So go away. It does not mean a thing coming from you."
Aaron, I believe the exact part of the statement you're mentioning is that they basically said teams should never be removed from their city and relocated.
Yeah, give me a break.
So they weren't even being they weren't even trying to be specific.
Oh man, give me a break. Anyways, so that's my specific straight to Joe.
No, straight. Yeah, throw the. Yeah, go lose in the World Series again, please. Clark Rasmussen, one of them. He out of DetroitHockey.net found something interesting. You see, anybody can go to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and look at what's being filed, because that's kind of how things work.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 seemingly hockey-related names were submitted anonymously, of course, wink, wink, but all have to do with a potential new name for this Utah U-Haul of a team coming into
That's
Utah.
actually really good. The Utah U-Haul.
That's perfect.
Applicable right now too.
Right,
Yeah.
it actually works. I'm going to file that real quick,
Yep.
and then I'll get the money.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to list these 5, and I want to just see how they hit you, and they're going to hit you bad.
Oh no.
Not like they're cringe. It's just we came up with much better names last week.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Utah Blizzard. It's fine.
That's
It's
like a
inoffensive.
backyard hockey generic team.
That's what when you like auto name an NHL like
Mhm.
that like that's where it goes.
Yep.
The Utah Venom, which
Okay.
fine.
Is it?
I'm trying to think.
Are
I
they
don't
just
know
trying to
what,
do
like-
Diamondbacks? No, but that doesn't make sense because we're talking Utah now. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they got
So-
snakes.
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
They do.
I mean, yeah, of course Utah has snakes, but like, yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
The Utah Fury,
No,
which
Mm-mm.
seems just so generic.
wrong.
It's
No.
just boring.
That's worse.
Um,
That's the worst
these
one.
these two I'm insulted by, frankly. Utah HC, Utah Hockey Club are the last
No,
two.
absolutely not.
If they go that, I
Well,
swear.
I've heard, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I've heard that's a possibility because there was reports that they were going to wait for like a season or two before they actually gave the
Yes.
nickname. So they were going to basically pull a Washington football team.
Football club.
But then I saw something else that and obviously, Josh, what you're saying kind of, I guess, doesn't necessarily negate it because they could be filing these trademarks for a couple years from now. But I saw other reports. It's like, oh, that's not actually true. They might announce something soon. But
I think that might have been a soft launch, like almost like, what? How would the public take it if we took our time?
terribly.
And the public was like, "No, that's awful." And they're like, "Oh, never mind. We're gonna name them. Don't worry."
They did say that it is Utah. We were wondering last
Yes.
week if it was going to be Utah or Salt Lake. It will be Utah, as far as we know.
It'll be Utah.
Which
Yeah, from what we
means
can tell,
Utah
that's-
uranium still in play.
And speaking of Washington football team, what's interesting is that when the now Commanders were rebranding, the person who filed the trademark applications for those potential names used an LLC, but with special digging, people found that the LLC's address was the filer's home address, so they traced that back to the Commanders.
Wow.
If you remember that, that's
Yeah.
how it got leaked in the first place.
Okay.
Which means that it is anonymous, means they paid special money, like, and did special techniques to get around potentially like anybody finding this out. So at the very least, they at least
Wait until we
learned
get
from
the Swifties on
football
it. They'll
team.
find them anyway.
The Swifties
Oh
will
my
figure it out.
gosh.
They're too busy crying right now. But once they're done crying, they will
Yeah.
help us figure out.
How long is that going to take? Like 3 to 5 business months?
I don't see. Here's the thing, and I know we're not. I know we're where you go for the up to date Dead Poet Society,
Yes.
or whatever the album is,
Yeah.
news.
Yep.
I've heard that it is relatively, dare I say, mid.
Josh, careful.
Ooh.
We're about to get a lot of.
Tread
Oh,
carefully.
wow.
We're about to get a
my
lot of foot
friend.
traffic.
Ooh.
Everyone's all the
Tread
Swifties Google
carefully.
alerts just went way off. And guys, it's been a long time since we've upset a fan base.
It's-
We upset the
you know,
Chicago
that's
Bears, and
true.
we're vindicated.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
I
100%
didn't say
vindicated.
anything other than
Yes.
it's no red.
I mean,
It's not even like compared to folklore. Like if you like that more quiet, like this is all I'm doing. I listened to a few of the songs. I tried. And now you're welcome for the extra foot traffic. Buy our merch. Thank you for coming by.
yeah, thank you.
Josh, what's your last terrible name? You only said 4, right?
Oh no, HC and Hockey Club were
Oh,
okay,
those are
okay.
2 different ones.
two different ones.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
Utah
willing
didn't
to
know the Utah Hockey Club.
same thing.
I'm willing to dig deeper into the Taylor Swift thing. I'm willing to keep shoveling.
Okay, yeah, I had my
Because-
take, which I feel like was very measured. Go for it.
Well,
Aaron.
no, mine's
Twist the knife.
measured. It's just that I'm not really a Taylor Swift fan really at all, which again, I may get eviscerated off the internet for that. Whatever. I don't know.
Aaron's in more trouble than Josh now.
Yeah, exactly.
I at least had a positive review of an album.
I was going to say, in your defense, Josh, of my friends that do listen to it and do break it down to a point that I'm a little scared for their well-being, I have not heard any of them say that this is their favorite album or even like top 3. So while the word mid would never come out of their mouths, that would be considered blasphemy for them. I think if you strap them to a lie detector, they might agree with you. But anyways,
See, vindicated.
there's your hard-hitting Taylor Swift news.
Everything Josh said is correct. It's not a very good album. Just
And it's okay. You don't
it's
have
not
to
no
have-
like I'm
a
not
great
saying
album
by her
every single time.
standards. It's just
Yeah.
not very good, generally speaking.
No,
album
songwriting
of
felt
music.
very random.
Not very good.
It's
Sorry.
all right.
Sorry, everybody. I listened to the whole thing on the way back from Columbus after the crew game.
Wow.
So,
Thank you for making it a surprise double album, but I think we're now in the quantity over the over quality phase.
Yep. exactly. She's
She's in,
got
our,
to
qual-
take
she's
a
in our
break.
quantity over quality era.
Yeah,
There
to
it
be
is.
fair,
Let's
that's
go.
been this
Found
show
it.
for like 150 episodes, but we're still trucking in.
Just gotta take a break, get back in the lab, draw
Yeah,
up some new plays.
yeah. Get some
We
shots
didn't
up.
reset.
just
Yeah.
come off of a record-setting world tour, though. So I think we're
Yeah,
okay.
she's doing all right.
Which is
She's doing
kind of the
okay.
point. When did you write this?
When did you
But
write
anyway.
this?
That's
Yes.
honestly
Yeah.
such a good point.
How?
Like, it
probably
is
on all
ridiculous.
of her private jet flights.
She
Probably that.
traveled
Hmm.
like.
Did you see that map of all of the flights she took
173,000
in 1
miles.
year? And it was literally, it was a
173,000
graphic showing the plane going everywhere on a map.
Mostly to Nashville.
Yeah,
Which
makes
is
Mostly to New
understandable.
York City and Nashville, yes, but still, I mean, it was back and forth and back. I swear there were definitely some flights that were like the equivalent of Indianapolis to Chicago, like
Yeah.
a ton of those flights too. Where I'm like, that's a 3-hour drive. What are you flying for? Anyway,
Yeah.
Because
There's a
you
lot of
already
tips,
have the
but-
plane fueled. You may as well listen. And this is one thing I will defend with her. If I was rich enough to afford not one but two private jets, yeah, I'm using them to go.
You kill the planet too, Josh?
Oh,
You
100%.
kill it too?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Listen,
No.
we fixed.
You
the
know what
ozone
I do with
hole.
my money? I
We
bill a
fixed the
high
ozone hole a little
speed
bit. We can open
rail.
it back up a little bit.
If I had that much money, I would privatize high speed rail.
Mm.
That's what I would do. If I had unlimited
You're gonna-
money, everyone gets trains. Everyone. You're going just to school in the morning? Train. Everything's a train.
I like trains. You said everyone gets a train and you're privatizing it. So everyone gets a train and it's going to be what, $85 now because you own the train market.
No. What-
This is monopoly and you just bought the railroad.
Yeah.
Is what I heard.
All four of them, actually.
Yes. You bought
yes.
all the
And
railroad.
reading
Every
railroad.
square. Hey, Josh, I built all the infrastructure
I think
on
it's
my
right.
dime, no tax dollars. They can buy a train pass from me.
How much is this train pass? Is it like an annual thing? What are we talking here?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
swear, you're going to
annual.
make me
Okay.
buy a
Annual.
subscription to trains.
Yes, it is. It's a train subscription.
Welcome to
it's going to be a
Train
really
Plus.
cool.
I mean,
app
honestly,
on your phone.
That's pretty sick.
It will also be
Yeah.
a game on your phone. It will be both.
Hmm.
There will be a really cool.
I'm
It's
just
like Parks and
Gamifying
Rec
the train market.
when Ben makes a website for the town, and it's really just a panda game. Same concept.
Hmm.
Same exact concept.
I like
What
it.
if I just want train light? I want you to explain the tiers for me. So there's train light, train silver, train gold,
Hmm.
or whatever.
But I never said that.
You're gonna
No.
have to. tier
It's
me, man.
implied that
Everyone's
we're helping you with this project,
even
I guess.
Elon, $8 on Musk.
Everybody does silver, gold, platinum, or whatever. So we're gonna pick some different precious gems. 'cause
Okay,
the-
okay.
Lame.
I'm gonna give you three. There are three. We have three tiers. What is your lowest tier that's paid?
Oh, okay. So like you can be on the train. Like, are you saying how many train rides you can have or something?
No, I want you to name them. Yeah.
Like, what are we
okay.
naming these tiers? Not like
Yeah.
tier one, you're
Yeah, 'cause
hanging off the back of the train.
I was gonna say standing room only for 15
Actually,
hours
that
straight.
costs more because that's for those seeking thrill.
All right, fair enough.
All
Like how
those
you're-
roller coaster enthusiasts,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Okay.
High speed rails for you too. I don't know. What's a precious gem that nobody uses for anything? Onyx. You can be Onyx.
Okay. I don't think our lawyers are going to like that. I think there's going to be some complaints, but we'll start with Onyx.
Hey, you know what? If you
Why is that a problem?
if you change the Y to an I, you won't have any copyright issues at all.
There it is.
No
That's
one's
cool.
done. No one
That's
has ever
cool.
done that.
No one has ever done that.
Yep.
No.
That's
Or you
that's
just
cool.
give it 2 Ys.
True. That's true.
Ooh.
I'm looking that up right now.
Give it more letters. That's Go to the
Yes.
U.S. Patent and Trade. The Utah Onyx.
Ooh, not bad.
See?
The
For
Onyx.
some reason, that
pilot.
it sounds good.
No, the Onyx was the name of my wife's like ice skating arena when she was doing all kinds of figure skating stuff growing up.
It was
Onyx
definitely
with
the
2
name of one
Ys
of
does
the
not
rock
show up a lot. There is some kind of Indian chocolate place, but I think we can
Oh.
work around it.
Does it look good?
I'm a little scared to click on it. I'll be honest. I'm
Yeah,
just on the
fair enough.
Google results page. Anyways,
Why does that sound like a good team name, even though it makes
Don't
absolute
you worry.
no
I
sense?
am I
The
am
words go
currently
together
looking to
very
see
well,
if
though.
there is any onyx that exists within Utah. I'm looking at the
The
localities for
words
onyx.
go together very well.
Guys, yep, there is onyx.
Let's
in
go.
They're mining for it,
Utah.
aren't they?
Yes.
yeah.
There it is. File it right now. How much is it to file a patent?
So, for all the listeners,
us
you
merch so
just
I can file
witnessed how we
this.
brainstorm anything between the three of us. It's completely out of left field, and it
Mhm.
all comes full circle somehow. We're talking about my dystopian world where I'm
Oh,
somehow rich enough to put high-speed rail everywhere, and we come
$50.
up
I
with
don't
the
wanna-
Utah Hockey Club's new name.
Yeah, it's
Got
if
it.
you wondered how we all graduated from college, we're still wondering. So
I don't know.
because we had these
You're gonna give us
conversations all the time.
What is this?
Yeah. Here's the worst segment you've ever heard in your life, and if you're driving, I recommend you pull over because you'll want to punch yourself in the face. We're talking about Taylor Swift, her best album, Red. The Cincinnati Reds have a tough stretch coming up in their season.
Nice
That was the
segue.
worst. I'm quitting this show.
Boo.
Thank you. Their next 32 games are against the following teams: the Philadelphia Phillies. That's their next series. Actually, that's the series they start tonight as we're recording. Then against the defending World Series champs, they will be going to the Texas Rangers. Then against the Orioles, 6 games against the Diamondbacks, who are in jail. The San Francisco 49ers. I've got the draft on the brain. San Francisco Giants. The Dodgers for 7 games, even though the Dodgers
How
are
did
like
that schedule happen?
2 games over 500, LOL. Then the San Diego Padres for 6 games. So the next 32 games, I'm not going to say they make or break the season, but look, if you exit that stretch, that gauntlet, like 10 games under 500, you're going to have a problem. If you can get out of it 500, it's gonna feel not as good because you're 12-9 right now after sweeping the Los Angeles Angels. But this is a difficult stretch. I know there's injuries happening. I know that. But I will say Ellie De La Cruz has been out of his mind. Since the eclipse, his OPS is like 1.312 or something stupid. His weighted runs created plus, which is gibberish to some people. Basically, what I'm telling you is he's incredibly good at baseball, and he's been playing ridiculous. And if he keeps up even at a moderate pace, he's legitimately in the MVP conversation. So that will obviously get tested in these next 32 games, but that's what I'm following. I'm following my Cincinnati Reds. If they're going to be a playoff contender, they're going to have to start looking like it because they've done a really good job of beating bad teams. They swept the White Sox, who are atrocious. They swept the Angels. They beat the Washington Nationals at the beginning of the year. They've done well against the teams that they should beat. But now you're facing teams that you could face in a playoff series if all goes well. Let's see what we're made of here. So the next 32 games, it's going to be brutal, but we'll hopefully not die.
As long as you end up better than the Astros, who are still so bad.
Ooh.
They're not
Hey,
going to make
also,
the playoffs, Josh.
Speaking
Guaranteed.
of which,
Remember?
Stop, Johnny, please don't. Not even a joke. At least the
That
Guardians.
wasn't a joke. I guaranteed that before the season. They won't make it.
I'm just happy that the Guardians are currently, as of yesterday, I got to double check, make sure nothing changed, are better than the Dodgers.
Uh-huh. And
We
a lot of
spent
other
a
teams.
$1 trillion. I mean, yeah, better than most of the teams, actually. So good job,
Our
Cleveland.
friendship.
Yeah.
Our friendship is better than a bunch of players whose agents are stealing money from them. Who could have known that?
Yep.
Whoops.
What would you rather have, Josh? $1 billion payroll or friends? Answer: friends.
Friends.
Friends. What I'm following is breaking friendships, it feels like, in the soccer community. Again, welcome to Johnny's Soccer Talk. 2 of you care, but I will
That's such a good slogan.
speak my piece.
That's so good.
2 of you care.
Speak my
Welcome
piece
to-
anyway.
Welcome to Johnny's
this
Soccer
isn't
Corner. I
really-
welcome both of my fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to the Crew game against Portland, and this is actually not really referencing that game a ton. But as the Premier League is ramping down, we're getting to the Champions League finals very soon. FA Cup semifinals just happened this weekend. Soccer's really ramping down, if you will. We're getting close to the end here at the end of the spring season. And there were a couple games over in England that really kind of fired some people up. And this is underlying. That's always what happens with these. Whenever people get angry about rules or officiating decisions, it's rarely just out of nowhere. Most of the time, it's boiling under the surface. And then there's one call that kind of breaks the camel's back. So in the FA Cup semifinal, if you're not familiar, the FA Cup in England is the top 4 divisions all get to play each other in a big tournament, which is amazing because you have relegation, but it's also the equivalent of like, I live in Dayton. It's basically like one of the suburbs in Dayton, like Centerville, could end up playing like New York City in the like New York City's biggest club in the title game of whatever sport you want. It's madness. Well, a second division or championship level is what they call Coventry City was playing Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the entire world. They're down 3-0 in the 71st minute. They scored 3 goals in a row to send it to extra time. This is the FA Cup semifinals, by the way. And so Manchester United is totally blowing the game. And Coventry scores a 4th goal. And everyone's losing it. Like, it's done. Like, they beat Man U. And what do you know? VAR check goes into place. And they draw the line. And it is not clear and obvious. Mind you, the flag didn't go up. The assistant did not call offsides. They pull it back and say he was offsides. If he's offsides, it's by a toenail. And I guess my question is, and I'd love to hear from people, and because I think this is somewhat applicable to all sports as well, because instant replay is really infiltrated. Gosh, I can't say that word. It's been brought into every single sport. I find now watching soccer, because soccer is unique in this way. After a goal scored right now, I almost pause. Okay, did we actually? Can I celebrate? That used to be one of the greatest moments of watching sports for me, generally speaking. Soccer's not basketball. There's not 200 points scored in a game. It's usually about 2-3 goals a game, right? Like 2-3 goals. I watch some exciting clubs and Arsenal and the Crew and the way they play. It's probably closer to 4 or 5 goals. But there's not a lot. And one of the most joyous, fun, climactic moments in soccer is when your team finally breaks through and gets that goal. And I feel like VAR and replay has started to take kind of some of that joy away. All those fans were like losing their minds. And I also don't feel like what did replay get brought in for? To fix atrocious missed calls. We're thinking, if you're thinking soccer history, Diego Maradona, hand of God,
Yeah.
You don't want that deciding the champion, like games. You don't want horribly missed calls. In this game, the Coventry players literally coming back to the ball, and I still don't think he was offsides. And the Manchester United defender, who apparently was not keeping him on, but is razor thin if he was, is running back to goal. So, like, it's also even a question of when do you define he's playing the ball? It's just like that would have never been called. It never would have been argued by any fan. And I find that I think fans are starting to almost question whether they'd like replay completely removed from the game in some ways, at least in the soccer sphere of things, of if it's kind of taken some joy away of we're nitpicking to the point of like, that's not, while by definition, maybe that's offsides. While by definition, maybe that's a handball. In the spirit of the game, it's not. It's not. And unfortunately, the spirit of the game is incredibly difficult to define. But in the Crew game, Cucho scored a brilliant goal and they called it back. Well, even in that game, like people lost it for a moment and then they're like, oh, wait, hold on. did he score or not? And then, like, because that was, like, hypothetically the first goal, every single time that the ball went in after that, everybody was, like, kind of just staring at the scoreboard silent. And, like, that's just kind of sad to me. That's kind of taken away from the game. Unfortunately, I don't have, like, a clear answer solution to that because replay has a lot of good things. It's fixed a lot of, like, terrible mistakes, and we don't probably give it enough credit for that. We just get angry when it screws up. But I do think that's a bit of a problem. And it's also a problem when you overturn something that's not clear and obvious, and you do it in favor of Manchester United over a team like Coventry.
Yeah.
And it's just begging for people to ask questions and conspiracies to arise because nobody is completely also unbiased. Like, let's be honest about that. So whether there's a conspiracy or not, people are flawed, people are biased. So I just think we thought replay and everything would solve more issues that, and like we wouldn't have all of these differing opinions on a lot of calls, and it'd be clear and obvious. And I think it's done, probably created just as many issues as it's fixed. So that's my rant about replay and VAR. And I'd love to hear what other people think about it because it's a fascinating decision. I know it's over in, but I think it has something to do with, football and basketball and baseball and all sports. And do we actually like that we have replay overall? Is that actually helpful? Or do you think it's actually affecting how you enjoy the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really know the answer either, but I will say I don't play FIFA a lot, but when I do, if I'm ever offsides and it's like by a toenail, nothing makes me more upset. Like, I just want to rage so hard. Like, I know this is technically the rule, but that's not, I hate this. Like, you got to be a foot over. I don't know.
You never call it in a Sunday league game and no one would ever complain about it.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's not the spirit of the game.
It's a really good point to bring up. And since we are going to be putting ourselves in charge of all sports at some time in the future, we'll come up with an answer for you all. But let us know. Hey, like Johnny, what you're saying is affecting all soccer fans, really. So if you have thoughts, let us know on Twitter or Instagram or really wherever you normally hang out on social media. We'd love to have that conversation because I think it is something that's ongoing that's not going to be solved overnight because I don't know who is in charge of solving that. Us eventually. For now, TBD, I guess. But hit us up on Twitter. We are at Fifth Goal Sports with a 5. So hit us up there. We'll love to chat about that more. Also, you can find on those social media platforms pretty soon here, we'll be introducing our NFL draft show. Again, that is coming out on Thursday during the first round. We will start right at 8 o'clock and we'll take you all the way through the end of the first round. So we'll be talking about your favorite team and who we think they should draft. And then we'll respond once they actually make a pick and we'll tell you our thoughts. And sometimes we get it wrong, but if even the angry Chicago Bears fans could tell you that sometimes we also get it right. So anyways, listeners, I hope you have a great week. Enjoy all the playoffs, enjoy the draft, enjoy hopefully good weather, whatever else you got going on this week. I hope it's good. Thanks for listening. As always, we appreciate your support of the podcast and we will talk to you all next week.